All right, and welcome to hour 14 of the Connect-a-thon 2022. This is it's a real privilege to be co-hosting in this session. Where our broader theme is unity and peace for this session, and there's a few ways we'll weave on that, and we're also going to be bringing in quite a bit of synchronicity with just who's here and what's alive to build on those connections. So I've been hosting in the last hour. I know that not everyone's had my introduction, but I think I'll weave in more about me as we go and just pass it over to John to share. Yeah.
Well, congratulations on the Connect-a-thon. I've been in Peace Week in this up convergence, and when I arrived, it felt like home. People all over the world are realizing this is not a time to turn away, but a time to come together. So bravo. I've never been to a Connect-a-thon before. I guess we'll go make it up, but I really want to honor the spirit of it all. The idea of we really need to change our direction, right? If we don't change our direction, we're going to wind up where we're headed. So I'm humbled and grateful for the chances to play. And let's see what we can do here. We're at one of those moments, I have to tell you, right? Everybody, I think, is, if you're alive now, you got the golden ticket. And there's so much we can learn from nature. And I am Dr. Tamsin Woolley Barker, the author of a book called Teaming, about how nature's oldest teams adapt and thrive. We're ape-like ants. But what she says in the book is that the situations we're in are caused by the patterns. And the patterns that we're in are caused by the way we relate to each other. So changing how we relate can change those patterns. And then those situations will change. And I've witnessed that. I've seen that. You know, you mentioned, I know Jack's here and Alexander. Some of you are a member of the Sign Alliance, and I'm a member of as well. And I only mention it because it shows what's possible with the power of trust. So we do this thing we call trusted sharing. My wife Summer Joy and I, we're admins on over 350 Facebook pages. And why would anybody ever want to be an admin on 350 Facebook pages? Well, we make sine waves for each other. So when a member goes live, we turn that live stream into a wave by using this trusted sharing where all of a sudden it appears. For instance, the other day we had 250 shares during the opening of the Peace Lab at the House of Hope in Auschwitz, of all places. It was a Peace Lab set up in memory of Philip Helmick, who some of you may know from the Shift Network, the director of peace. But this is an example of what we're capable of doing, in this case using trust, because if we change the way we're relating to each other, we can do things differently. And we've seen that. And I'm here to bear witness to that and tell you that. And I know you know that from your own lives. So I'm in. I'm here to serve. I want to know what I could do, how to be supportive. If anybody wants to ask anything or offer anything here, I don't know what the rules of the game are, but I feel we're civilized people. We can make it up.
Yeah. Thank you so much, John. I'll also help warm it up in terms of the invitation for others. But thank you so much. And one thing that we were doing in the last hour that I felt was really generative is we shared a lot of things into the chat as well. Sometimes people were looking up what someone else was talking about and putting the link, and I tried to catch that with the teaming book that you mentioned, to put that in there, just because it's part of so that type of link sharing, because also it'd be great for folks, probably a lot of folks didn't necessarily know about the Peace Through Unity and Unity Week and all that effort. So if you want to share more links about that too, you could do it in the chat, but you could also give a little riff on that at some point. Another thing we did during the last session was really made space for anybody else that was feeling called, to just kind of chime in and tune in. Alexander, I see you're up, and might be nice to hear from you in the moment too. And what we really did was a lot of that. I mean, in the spirit of weaving, in the spirit of the Connect-a-thon itself, And you know, I'll share that again in the chat. Just a couple of the like kind of purpose inquiries, you know, the kinds of things that might be, you know, might inform us here. And but I'll put that in the chat. Alexander, you were involved in some of the other sessions too, right? So I don't know if you want to bring in the voice of just kind of weave in some connection around this. It'd be great to hear you too.
Yeah, sure. My pleasure. And by the way, Lori's mentioning that her volume is maxed out on her computer, and you have such a beautiful soft voice, John, that if there's any way that can be increased so we can make sure that we can all hear you, that would be cool. But I hear you pretty well, so just so you know, but some others might not. Yeah, so what I wanted just to share here also, thank you, Keala, just to be able to see if we can bring this into service of this Connectathon also, because I think John and Jack and others who are part of, you know, Roger, also part of this this Connectathon, Synergized Impact Network Exchange, global caravans of peace, all these things, the magic canoe that you got there with you, all of this is about, you know, creating the world we want to see. So here in this Connectathon, it is all about what can we do? We're kind of in a proof of concept phase, right? We want to then in the next equinox do a prototype, and a year from now do the first actual launch of this thing. So we're learning, right? This is our first pre-release, just we're in the Petri dish together to say, how can we model, how can we be the prototype global eco-civilization that we want to see in the world? And so we're doing that a little bit here. But John, I think being able to learn about the things that you are doing, about sign and about, you know, the magic canoe and about all these things are about creating the conditions together, creating the culture of that would sort of pave the way for the emergence of a global eco-civilization. So what is it that you can share with this group that might be some useful skills, some stories, some tools that can help emerge this global eco-civilization? I think that's really what we're going to be looking for here.
Yeah. Well, okay. So we are doing another convergence right now. This is happening. What is a convergence? Let's talk about that, because it's very much probably like a Connectathon, right? But it's self-organizing and it's adaptive in this way. So there's about 15 different convergence rooms. People have stood up to say, I'm willing to steward a room. And I'll show you in a minute what that looks like. So we can, but each steward gets a room and a board. So imagine you got a Zoom room and a Trello board. And those boards are used to curate a number of events. So on the Trello board, each event has its own card. So if I'm stewarding a room, there's one on holistic design and biomimicry circle. And I, as the steward, interact with the host to develop the details and the content and the timing and the scheduling. And it goes through a process from a proposed idea to a committed possibility that's going to happen to a confirmed once the details are in place. And then it's published on the site. And then at that time, just like what we see doing here, like for instance, I was just watching the consecration of the Pyramid of Peace from Ecuador with Sri and Kira. It was unbelievable. They built this 7-story pyramid, and with indigenous tribes there, Sacred Headwaters Initiative and Canary and others, over during this 99-day period. And we were just there. That was one of the events. That was in a room, that was in a card. So here, let me show you what I'm talking about. Now, this has been going on for the last week. So a lot of the events have passed, but there's still stuff happening through Saturday. We do an 8-day week like the Beatles. We call it the Beatles week there. But here, I just showed you the thing on TAMPS, and I put that in the chat. But if I go here, okay, this is the event, the consecration of the Pyramid of Peace that was just happening. And let's see. So when you go to, this is Peace Week. And this is one of the places that we do these convergences. And we do them in line with the equinox. So this one happens during International Day of Peace. There's also, and check this out. Let me see if I can play this for you guys here. Hold on. I'm going to stop my sharing and start sharing again. So just show you a little bit about what we're up to. But I want to make sure you hear the sound. This is short, but it's some of the amazing gifts here.
Let me tell you about the lie we've been living in for centuries, millennia. They say peace through domination's justifiable while building up the arsenal. All the sages and wise men of the ages were guiding us to look within ourselves. But the fear so divisive and the lie so enticing, we keep spinning this hell. Shine your light, you are the future being told. Cultivating the seeds we've sown. 99 days of peace through unity. 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 99 days of peace through unity.
All right. So I'm on the site, right? And up here, there's a schedule. And if I look on the schedule, you'll see there's one of the options are what they call convergence rooms. Right now, actually, my wife is involved in 24 hours of dancing, okay? She's amazing. If I go here, though, look, if I go down to room 1, that's one of the rooms that these events that have been coordinated in a self-organizing way happen. Now, let me see if I can come down here and show you. There's a Trello board. So look at some of the past events. It started with Vandana Shiva. Now, let me distinguish. There's live events happening in these Zoom rooms just like this. But also from time to time, we would stream out pre-records. So pre-recorded events. And of course, we've been streaming out onto all these different channels. But this is the call for the Mother Earth delegation, the amazing work on the core need for water and healthy water, and the list goes on. Now, in addition to this, what we did was we set up a mighty network for this 99-day period. I don't know if you guys know what I mean by that, but you should, because I'm really happy with that platform. So let me see if I could show that to you here. And we've been, and it's so, I hope, heartwarming for you to discover, oh my God, this is going on. Just like me discovering, oh my God, the Connectathon's going on. There's so much of this. Let's assume it's happening all over the planet. And this is an incredible platform. And we've been using it to get prepared for these 99-day period. But if you haven't been on a mighty network, you should know that it's really, what I love about it, I'm going to stop for a second. It's a different business model. It's not advertising based. The algorithm isn't tailored to be surveillance capitalism to target you so that money's made on ads. It's a different business model, and it's really functionally brilliant. It's the same woman behind it who was behind Ning. So peacethroughunity.earth is our mighty network. There are many, many mighty networks. And some of you know I have a passion for these technologies. In my heart of heart, I mean, if you could have seen what was happening with these young kids. Imagine Ukrainian refugees, so young kids in the House of Hope in Auschwitz, Poland, talking to their Ukrainian friends. They're back still in Ukraine, connected up with kids from Rwanda who are healing from a war that took place before they were born, connected with kids from Chicago. And this was all hosted by the Peace Lab during the House of Hope. I mean, I think the internet was built for that. And to see this next generation and to hear them talk about the love and compassion they have. This young man in Poland talked about his commitment to learn to speak Ukrainian because of these kids that have come there that he can't connect to. And they talked about bomb shelter classrooms, the kids in Ukraine. And they talked about the sirens and the effect it's having on their nervous system. And the other kids from Chicago were able to give them advice and console them. So when you change the medium, we could change the practices. We're in a new medium. We've kind of been washed ashore here. We're not quite sure how to use this yet. That's why I love that it's an experience of experimentation. One of the things we're learning, we're stuck in our silos. It's not wrong, but it's just the way it's always been. So sign is intended to do synergizing impacts, things that actually bring us together, just like a connect-a-thon. That's why I came, believe me, it wasn't like I didn't have anything to do tonight. I'm exhausted, but I had to come and say yes, yes to the connect-a-thon. Yes to us trying to figure out how the hell we're going to figure it out. We're really well organized to produce results that nobody wants. This is what Otto Scharmer said at our last World Unity Week. I said, boy, that is so true. So how do we put on the brakes? I mean, especially given that I've been learning from my friends here. Jonathan Granoff taught me about Westphalia in 1648 and how that really birthed the idea of nation states. And we've been living as if, you know, we belong in these land. Well, the land has disappeared right here. I don't have a clue where anybody here is. And I don't necessarily have to identify that way. We're the people, we the people of this planet are sovereign. And we need to assert our sovereignty. It's the non-state actors, because nations can't do it. They just can't deal with climate change and terrorism and pandemics and refugees. These crises are showing us the limitation of our institutions. This is serious collapse. I mean, it's not, it may be the best thing for us all, but it's happening. Let's be clear. I mean, the Secretary General was saying it so eloquently yesterday. We're in a real bind. So if we've got this environmental degradation, we've got this whole economic inequality and institution failure, we the people better adult up and figure out how we're going to actually come together with love and compassion. Because if we can't really get past our differences, we're going to be stuck. And diverse exchange builds capabilities and opportunities. That's one of the things from nature. Diverse exchange works. So let you exchange and let me shut up here. Here's my little
beautiful offering. John. Thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, that was like multimedia too, you know, as you do it, you know, just sharing and giving a good bit of context there for what's happening. And I think it's really emotional, obviously, a lot of that work that's happening. So something that is also really important is the humanness of that, because that's the other thing where if we're looking at where we are, you know, in this arc, that we actually, if we start seeing how, I mean, there's a lot of different ways there's despair and there's hope, and we, you know, can't bypass the despair if that's there, but also, you know, that's part of our resilience in our human states. And we talked about this a bit in the last session too, just coming up around how to support that part of what everybody's going through. And I think we're just getting more and more skills to be able to do a lot of this. And I wanted to just weave a couple points, because, you know, when you were just sharing the point about nation states not really, you know, being able to cut it, it's kind of similar. One of the reasons we're doing this bioregional regeneration focus as well is helping people become people of place, not necessarily by a nation state context, but instead by a connection to the place where they are. And then even, of course, understanding who came before in that place and how to take care of that place in a good way. And, you know, and understanding watersheds and all that permaculture, that kind of stuff. So some of the threads that we are wanting to really weave through from here are a couple of these projects. And, you know, we're also, a lot of us are familiar with each other as we keep weaving across time. And that's also really encouraging to see, you know, some of the same folks showing up to collaborate. So I just, I wanted to chime in about that because the bioregional regeneration is one of the patterns that is hopeful. And I also, when you shared that video, it was really beautiful, the music and everything. And I haven't seen gratitude revealed yet, but I was thinking about how, unity and peace and moving through, we were talking earlier about trauma and collective trauma and how the actual integration of trauma and, moving beyond it is like the aspect of how resilience can be formed. And there's a lot of work around that happening, which also is hopeful as far as like, where we get to on the other side. But I did want to share that that gratitude. I think that's going to just be visually amazing. It's the same. It's Lou Schwartzberg who did Fantastic Fungi, which is also really moving.
Yeah, it is. Have you heard his explanation for why he did the movie?
For Gratitude Revealed?
Yeah.
I heard it at one point, but you want to share it? Yeah, share.
Oh,
I don't have it on
but you know
my
what might
tongue.
be fun? Yeah. No, it's great that you bring that up. But I think we're learning how to get real in the virtual and how we can, self-regulate and co-regulate. Let's try something. Okay, one of the things we've been doing, we call these transformances. Gives us a chance to kind of drop in with each other. And here, let me share one. I'm going to pick, there's about 10 of them that we did for the 99 Days of Peace Through Unity. It's Gary Malkin's playing, it was done improvisationally with Sarah McCrum. Hold on, and let's go to one here. Hold on. Just give us a little bit of space together. Breathe into it.
Do you know how beautiful you are? Have you ever stopped to look at yourself? To see yourself in your truth? In the clarity of who you are? In your magnificence? If only you could see what I can see. If only you could know what I know of you. You would stand before yourself in awe. You would see yourself you would feel yourself. You would know yourself. And so I invite you in this moment to see how beautiful you are. To see yourself in clarity, in simplicity, in your true nature. I invite you to see yourself. You are so beautiful.
It's nice. Pause is so good.
All right. Yeah, really appreciating that. I wanted to just kind of tune in and see if there's anybody else that is just maybe feeling moved by all this and wants to just share. So I'll just give a moment to see, and you could signal or just open your mic. We have all those settings pretty loose here, so you can open your own mics if you want, or just signal. I don't want to put anybody on the spot necessarily, but if your camera's on, it's kind of a sign that you might be available. One approach. Jack, how about you?
Oh, well, let's see. Yeah. Well, I guess my thing is, and John's heard this before a time or two, and I'm kind of like, to some, maybe a broken record. But I really think, I think everybody here would like to see a world that works for all. And I guess most likely everybody here is putting some effort into that. And my position is that you really, if you want a world that works for all, we really need an economy that works for all. And the people who run the current economy in the US and around the world are actually not only not interested in a world that works for all, that would be contrary to what they're trying to do. So we really trying to fix it, trying to play within it, whatever, it's probably not going to work. The system is, as the next system people say, the system is broken. And if we want something to work, we're going to have to create another one. And they say a next one. So what I'm getting at here is that we really, well, one more thing on the other side first is that I think at least a lot of us here realize that the people who pretty much run this planet, they run it because they are on top of the economy. They run the economy. They run the Federal Reserve and on and on. I'm not going to go on and on that, but that's basically how they got to power. It's basically how they stay in power. And it's basically how they keep us from power. So we really have to work on taking a lot of that, or as much of that as we can, away from them. And there are ways of doing that if the networks who are working toward a world that works for all can come together in a very, very organized, cooperative, coordinated, and collaborative way. And I'm not sure if we don't do that, that we're going to be able to do that. And if we can do that, there are a lot of things, a lot of really spectacular things that we could do. So anyway, so what I'm getting at, and I'll just put my name and New Economy in the chat so people can contact me. But I have got, I put quite a bit of thought into this, and I put some things together, and I just wrote an article for Trends Magazine of how we can come together and do that. And there's a big focus on conscious businesses, supporting conscious businesses, and expanding the number, because there's really not enough conscious businesses on this planet to do what we really need to do. So that is pretty much where I'm at. Well, the process of putting that together, the conscious business thing together, and providing people who want to support that a way to do that. So yeah, so I don't want to bob around forever, but I just think it's so important. And I guess the last thing I want to add is that there's almost nobody doing it. There's almost no interest in putting together and focusing on putting together the economy, the structure that runs the planet.
Mm. Well, Jack, just to chime in and be conversational with you, I would actually say that I'm not sure that that's true. Like, I think that it seems like there is no one doing it or no one trying to, but I have a feeling that there's actually a bit of a smokescreen going on with stuff like that. Like, what I end up seeing is that there's, and I was sharing about this earlier, that there's a lot of people working on that. And they're kind of siloed from each other and they don't necessarily see what they're doing. But the moment that we're approaching right now with this Connectathon and with these patterns of increasing that synergy and synthesis that can happen around emergent movements, that the efforts are kind of snowballing around regenerative economics in terms of seeing more complex expressions of value flows, more ways of tracking and showing appreciation for that, in terms of benefit and contribution, in the way we think about it in terms of pro-social, and building that into more of a regenerative culture and seeing people having more abilities to express and exchange value of their own design, and I think that's one of the really liberating points around it. And similar, I just want to really acknowledge that there's certainly levels of frustration when we feel like we can't see it and there's no one there doing it. And I want to offer a little breath of hope, though, for the fact that sometimes it's because we're just not seeing it yet. And hopefully we're going to keep seeing even more and more of that coherence coming up. And if it's okay, I'll just pass the mic over to Dr. Kin now. Jack, do you feel good for now?
I just want to mention one last comment.
Sounds good. Okay, one last one.
I think a lot of people are aware of the Rothschilds and the guy who started that whole thing. It's an international banking business. He was asked one time if you wanted to control a country, would you rather be in charge of the military or the economy? And his answer was the economy. So I'm done.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you very much. I like that last remark too. Excuse me for my throat. I will try my best. The one thing I want to give an input is I have the same pain and I have the same frustration that we cannot do good or the better because of some who control the power and the economy. And that is perfectly said. So because of this last speaker, Mr. Jack Strasberg, I raise my hand. But I may be also upsetting him. So I do it with my own, tradition. I pay respect to you before I speak, but I speak my mind. These people are hard power, and we cannot fight fire with fire. We should kill the fire with water, and that is my contribution. Please think about it, and nobody can withstand water. If you go to Confucius or other philosophers, or the most important philosopher in my life is Buddha. Buddha never teach us to revenge, but Buddha show the way to succeed. Therefore, we go with soft power in order to undo all the bad things of hard power. I am in. Thank you very much.
Nature says that, and nature doesn't solve problems. It just keeps moving to the positive. Just keeps opening doors. And that's why I'm here. It's that possibility that we're going to discover each other, and in the process of connecting, we're going to be able to either cooperate or collaborate or co-create. And I see that happening all the time. But I know it starts from me. So there's kind of like, on one hand, we think of what can we make together, and how do we build our collective capacity? But it starts from here. How am I going to develop in all this? And one of the things I answered, one of the questions I was getting ready for the co-do, I'm learning to listen. I'm not very good at it. It doesn't just mean silent. By the way, the words listen and the words silent is the same letters. But there's more to it. And I tell you, we're often misunderstood and we often misunderstand each other. That's why the pause is such a great thing for me. Because it says, wait a minute here. because I don't think we got a minute to waste. So we are building new models, and it's based on love and compassion and sharing and caring. And we say in sign we spruth. Speak your truth with love and compassion. And we can do a lot in that space. And we are, in fact. The stories I could tell you what peace through unity looks like are amazing. There are people, Jack, working on exactly what you're talking about. Totally. So I just want to put that on the table. And someone else raised their hand. Jose.
Oh, thank you, John. It's amazing, your wisdom and your awareness. And just want to tell that, for example, I'm a city farmer. I start with me, myself, and I don't focus on people that they don't do the same job as me, but I want to start listening as well, like you know. And if you see my background, I mean, I don't see my image, but do you see my background? This is a green bin that I haven't been using for green bin, only for zero waste. So what I did is during 1 year, I put all my kitchen scraps and everything. You can put lollies, you can put bread, you can put mold, you can put oils, you can put fat, anything. And then a little bit of green leaves, a little bit of brown leaves, a little bit of manure from animals, and everything's turned to soil. And the regeneration process starts in a household. And councils don't do it, but I don't care. We can share it. And this is powerful. This is individual level.
Mm. Wow.
So I'm not waiting for a council to get my organic beans. I'm just doing it at home. And then I show it to my neighbors. I show it online on YouTube. And if anyone is compassionate about our planet can regenerate. It's so easy. Right. And we can start individually. So in that bin, I'm growing abundance of food, and it's so simple that I can wait to share with more people. And that's my love to you and to the planet.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. You know, I think Picasso said the meaning of life is to find your gifts. The purpose of life is to give them away. And you are modeling that beautifully. I mean, really. Your commitment to put it out on YouTube as well and showing how it starts from within. Oh, Jose, you made my day. I love that. Look at that.
Thank you.
At first, when you came on, because you can kind of see your face, it was like a talking green screen. I'd never seen a green screen so green. A green bin.
I still have to find out where to put my picture. Maybe I have to put the green screen at the back and then the face will be there. But anyway, I can share my love through the garden. And yeah, I do agree about the love that we have to express ourselves. And the other word to come out with this regeneration, I guess, is money cash flow. Money cash flow is so important and so amazing. So don't get caught on buying the next technology or things like that. Invest in your garden, invest in your trees, invest in new fruit, in new income. There's so many types of income that can come to one family. And sharing that, for example, for instance, instead of buying grains, if you have chickens, you can use your own compost to attract one of the abundance fly in the world. Is called black soldier fly. That will give enough protein for your chicks to produce eggs for free.
Wow. Wow.
It's just powerful.
Yeah, I love the way that you're sharing, you know, the type of practical and living system solution, you know, and the scale pattern, the replicable pattern of having people just learn things and share them, which of course, you know, a lot of people hear in the word, you know, the word permaculture or that reference but really all these different regenerative design systems that can be done at a small scale. It is a really inspiring part of, it's the perfect antidote to feeling overwhelmed by the scale of what's happening in the world, or feeling like the scale is too much, is to break that spell by doing something very literally effective in that way. And especially when we take to the level of nourishment, and we grow things, or we make our own medicine, we make our own food, and we, it's like just taking that in and sharing that with others, like the simple, right? So that's one of the things that earlier, when in an earlier session, folks were sharing about 𝐂𝐿𝐿, and I was specifically thinking about the quote and his piece around times are urgent, we must slow down. And that's what I've been feeling is like part of this antidote. In the tech movement, there's been a saying, move fast and break things, in relation to the code, when you're developing something. But I think it's definitely time to move slow and fix things. And we can do that, and we can also slow is fast, slow is smooth, smooth is fast too. So and the speed of life and the speed of trust.
That's right. So it's so simple, because it's our home. We look after our piece of earth. And I mean, it doesn't belong to us. It's just Mother Nature, even if I pay money to the bank, that doesn't belong to me. It belongs to everyone, to animals, to wildlife, to air, to water. It's just all together. It's just a link of you are me, and me, myself in you, So we are one, we're part of that. And don't feel overwhelmed of this huge thing. For example, I disconnect completely from media, because I wanted to connect with you, not with media. I wanted to connect with the regenerative mind that is powerful in plants, in mind, in spirit. And we all can combine this beautiful collaboration. And so if I do it individually, now I can express myself and maybe speed up a little bit more and then get collapsed. But start by doing composting. It's just so simple. Even in the cities, you can go to the rooftops and start growing your own food. And one of the best ways to do it is just recycle your own waste in a matter that everything from the kitchen can be compostable. That's easy. And it has to be done in the cities if we wanted to regenerate. And
yeah, thank you so much, Jose. I want to, in the interest of time and catching a little bit of flow and hearing some more voices, I see Alexander has a hand up too. So if you'd like to share next.
Thanks so much. Yeah, exactly the inspiration that I'm getting from what Jose Luis is sharing here is that we can do this. And when we get inspired by people like Jose Luis who are doing things, then we can connect with them, and we can do them too. And we can learn from and with each other. This is what it's all about, truly. This is what we are doing here in this Connect-a-thon. And the things that Jack was sharing as well, I mean, this is where we said, wow, I want to connect with these people. And that's where this platform, which is currently called Circular, but it's going to be called 𝐂𝐴𝐧𝐬 as soon as we get this past the prototyping stage. But there we can go back, we can go to this, put a few of the links there that we're working on. You can see where people are around the globe, literally on this globe platform, and you get to connect with and see the links, and you get to form communities of practice, like what Jose Luis is doing in terms of composting. You find other people who are doing that. You can find communities of place, find people who are doing this kind of thing in your environment, your neighborhood. And you can find communities of interest, like, hey, I'm really interested in these. Practice has more to do with your profession. Like, what is what I'm doing? But communities of interest also have to do with, what it is that you want to, your hobby, what it is you want to be engaged with. So you find each other, you connect. No one of us is as smart as all of us. That's the fundamental principle we have going here, right? So I just want to bring this back to what John is doing, to the Synergized Impact Network Exchange, and to all of the things that John is representing in this, or representing and presenting in this hour. Here's what I want to mention. John Raymer has taken a step into this environment, into the Connect-a-thon. And he is stepping towards us, towards this place, towards what we are doing to form this kind of network of networks, this meshwork, of interconnected interbeing. Why I say that's particularly important is because I believe that the synergized impact network exchange and things like what John has showed us here actually represents bigger brother. I don't want to say big brother in the 1984 sense, but big brother in the sense of some expression of this type of community forming, this kind of coalition of coalitions, this way of interconnecting and finding each other and being inspired by and with each other that they have been doing now for quite a while. What can we learn from the Synergized Impact Network Exchange? I think we got a glimpse of that here. I would encourage us now, and maybe John, you can make some comments about this as well, of how we can then take a step towards what John is doing as well, how we can find and bring what the 𝐂𝐤𝐷 world is doing into an offer and a connection with John's community of communities and network of networks and network improvement community, right? All the kind of stuff that Doug Engelbart was working on as well, the Nick of Nicks. So I just want to say that what you're doing is also providing us not only with inspiration, but also with the example of reaching out towards this community of communities. And I want to find ways that we can reach back out towards you and enrich what you're doing. What would be your invitation for how to do that?
Yeah, well, gosh, I love you, Alexander. Thanks. And you guys are doing the right thing. I want to do it with you. I mean, wherever we all are in our development with this stuff, right? So there was something we've learned recently. I've been telling you about these synergy projects. We tried, and one of the shifts was from pitching to pooling. Say we've been in that isolated kind of thing. We come together and it's like you wait for your 5 minutes to pitch your thing. You hope you can attract attention and maybe money or whatever. And that's just been so such a place where I feel there's been unlocked potential in that model. We're just, okay, we're going to give everyone time and I'm going to try to be a good citizen, so I'll wait. And it just doesn't really work as well as like in the stone soup story, where these people show up in this village and they're hungry. They realize knocking on doors just isn't going to work, but they put this pot in the middle of the town and they filled it with water and they said they're going to make some stone soup. So we've been doing this with Dr. Tamsin Woolley Barker and making her project, Teaming Up for Teaming. It's been amazing. We're able to secure $500,000 for a piece of land, the Borrego Institute. She's connected with Geoversity. Just one example. We're doing this with the folks in the House of Hope. We've been able to make that happen. She'd been making that happen, but we stepped in this idea of teaming. And we really consciously get behind somebody and put them as the center board in this canoe. And we set up a Trello board and we make a regular beat pattern to define what, and we just used Peace Week to be a milestone for these projects. We had 7 of them, getting this pyramid of peace built in 99 days, getting the brand Earth, which is this, the project. Did you see the breakthrough with Levon from Patagonia, reimagining capitalism and saying that Earth is our only shareholder? I think that's a huge breakthrough. That is business taking its responsibility to the next level. And we're behind that with this thing called Brand Earth, where there's a way to actually help fund the SDGs. So synergy projects is one possibility. I'd love to do a synergy project with you guys and think about how the Connect-a-thon could be served, not like what I can get from you guys or you can get from me, but really open the possibility of imagining something maybe beyond anything we're currently doing, but we do it together. Now, the truth is, I love to be like the A&R guy at a record label. That's how I relate to Alexander. That's how I relate to everyone in Sign. And it gives me joy to be in service. The less credit I need, the more effective I am. And I use that as a barometer with myself. When I'm sensing, oh, I'm not appreciated or I'm not getting, uh-oh, I know I'm in trouble. I have everything I could ever ask for. And I get to work with the most amazing people. And if you're on this call, I'm putting you in that league. We don't have a minute spare. So thank you for the invitation. I accept it. I want to know what you're doing in a way that I could meaningfully contribute. I want you to know, and we've got Weaver as a way, a simple directory, because we need to accelerate the get to know you phase. So, we set up that platform from the Kumu guys, Weaver, where people just have profiles and they can make connections. That's very helpful to have. And I think that's what you're probably doing with 𝐂𝐤𝐬. I haven't spent enough time on it to know that. But that's one thing. We don't have a lot of time to get to know each other. So it's good to read up. We can, in the space between the synchronous moments we're together, find out about each other, do our homework. We're in some initiation. Finding our gifts and our calling, facing our shadows, honing our visions, taking responsibility for how we're connected to each other. This seems to be the game right now.
John, can I just ask you, Keala, one really, so I know we're at time, but let me just ask one quick thing for John. John, if you could drop some links there, like a starter kit, how do we get connected to all of this that you have suggested here so that we can do what you're doing with us, which is coming and being part and reaching out to us? How can we reach out and get connected with all the richness of what you have to offer that we can bring and connect the connections, right? This would be kind of connecting to connect the dots in a way. And that's what I'd really be excited to do. So some starter link, some starter kit links.
That's the sign network, just to learn about that. But here is the link to join this Peace Through Unity .earth. This is that mighty network thing. This is an engagement platform. Lots of good people are here, and we could do more. And I'll put my email in here too. Don't hesitate to reach out to me.
Thanks so much, John. Yeah. And thank you especially for, for being able to fit this in amongst all the else that you're doing and joining in the evening and everything. Really great to see you again. It is almost time to do the handoff here, but one thing I wanted to share again is the Bioregional Regeneration Summit, which is another way to weave in with some of our other efforts. We're doing some sibling bioregion development towards that at the Mapathon event, which we shared about earlier as well. And I just really want to say it's a real honor to be participating. I'm going to be handing off the baton here on the hosting side of things, but it was a real privilege to be part of this, and I look forward to all the weaving that comes out of it. And so many blessings and gratitude for all of you as the hours go on, the journey goes on, and these are all recorded, so we'll be able to weave and reconnect, carry it forward.